pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for today and thank you for this country. Thank you for the soldiers that have given all and that we celebrated yesterday. Be with each of their families. Be with us tonight as we think about and make decisions for this community. Thank you and amen.
Amen.
Debbie, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Beanbaugh,
Yes, here.
Commissioner Brett Parker,
Here.
Commissioner Davenport,
Here.
Commissioner Griffith,
Here.
and Commissioner Holcomb.
Here.
Mr. Mitchum, any changes, deletions, additions, anything going on?
No, sir.
Public participation, do we have anybody in the public that would like to speak or bring anything to our attention? Yes, ma'am. Come up to the microphone and identify yourself, please.
I am Lisa Martin, 618 South Pine.
Hang on a minute. We got no,
System working?
Yeah, it's working on you.
Volume up, maybe?
okay, go ahead.
Unfortunately, I
There
can
you go,
talk
that's
a lot
better. There you go.
louder. Okay. Anyway, last month I came in about some anomalies on the bill. I wanted to say, while I still don't understand why we continue to have a web and a application programs that can't do simple housekeeping, the customer service department has been phenomenal. They have worked very hard, and I just want to say a very public thank you for that assistance. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to thank us for something we did right? Anybody else want to speak? Seeing nobody, I'll close that part. Let's go to the agenda. On the consent items, does anybody have anything they want pulled? Discussion? Nobody? Okay, I need a motion, please, for A through G.
So moved. There is one little reverse order here for E and F, but if we were handling them all together, we should be fine. So move A through G for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Mrs. Debbie, please, call the roll.
Chairman Beanbaugh,
Yes.
Commissioner Brett Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Davenport,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith,
Yes.
Commissioner Holcomb.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Mitchum, you are up.
All right, our general manager report.
Yes.
Ms. Marchant. Financial.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Lori Merchant, Controller of the Utilities Commission. For the month ending April 30th, 2018, the Utilities Commission change in net assets for the combined system is a positive $658,697. The balance in the fuel and purchase power account is an over-recovery of $1,869,000, which is a minimal decrease of approximately $21,000 for the month. For the month of April, we had a capital outlay of approximately $1,329,000 on capital projects.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Director of Finance? Nobody? Thank you. Mr. Mitchum, are you going to challenge us?
Am I going to challenge you?
It says
sir.
challenges and accomplishments.
No, actually, that's a list we give you every year
Okay.
that you was provided with, just to let you know some of the goings and comings last year. If there are any questions concerning any of it, we'll be glad to address it.
You want to highlight anything?
I think it's all highlighted.
Lee, did you have,
Chairman,
you had
yes, sir.
questions?
Chairman Biedenbach, just
Go
a
ahead.
couple of comments looking back on that 5 years. The debt reduction of 55 million to 34 million over the 5-year period is quite impressive, especially with Mr. Belinsky's, I guess, responsibility. And having our interest expense on an annual basis cut in half over that 5-year period. That's some pretty good, sound fiscal action, and I just wanted to say attaboy to everybody involved, obviously from Mr. Mitchum on down. And the second comment is safety. I just looked at the safety, and Mr. Holcomb, of course, has plants. I had plants in my day. Mr. Biedenbach has plants as well. Safety is a very important thing, and it's nice to see the last couple of years being in the winner's circle with respect to safety. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead, Ms. Parker.
I don't know if this would be the appropriate place, but if we need to move it different in the agenda, let me know. Can you give us an update of exactly where we're at right now as it relates to the search for your replacement?
I believe I could get that from Ms. Brittany.
Well, I can tell you. So there should be coming back to us in 2 weeks. Ms. Lewis, I sent an email to her 2 weeks ago, or a week ago. She responded that we'd had 59 applications. They were whittling those down. There was some more stuff they were requesting from the applicants. And then she should be coming back to us, I would say, within a week to 2 weeks. So is that kind of what you had? That's what she told me.
Get the latest.
So
So you say that then she'll communicate with us via email in
yeah,
a
oh,
week or
absolutely.
two?
If you send her an email, she'll respond right back to you. So I've sent one email, just so everybody. That's just, I got to thinking about it, and I sent just kind of like you are right now. But yeah, so it's 59 applicants out for, more information, and then qualifying those 59, probably eliminating some, and then they would get with us. I would say within a week to 10 days. And like I said, if you have any questions for her, she'll respond back to you.
Is that where you are too, Brittany? Okay. All right, and along with, you have anything else? Along with that, where are we on a director of finance?
Director of Human Resources, Brittany Pitcher. Mr. Holcomb, you don't want to answer that one too?
I'm out of that one.
Okay.
We only get 3. CEO, CFO, right? No, not CFO.
We currently have another interview scheduled tomorrow
Okay.
for another candidate, but we've held a couple other interviews last week.
Okay.
And we're still diligently searching. I'm soliciting people out there as well, so.
Okay, so you have interviewed 3 or 4?
To date, we've interviewed, I'd say 6.
Okay.
And we have another one tomorrow.
Okay, so you're at 7. How many of those were qualified and how many are under consideration?
One was under consideration that we actually offered employment
I know
to, who
about that one.
declined.
Yeah, he's gone.
Right, yeah. To date, we haven't had another one that we felt was qualified enough to consider.
Okay, thank you.
What about Commissioner Bernadette applying?
Whoa, no, I don't want to lose her up here.
And she don't want the job.
You don't want to go back to work?
No.
Okay. Interim General Counsel, sir.
Yes. May 31st is the end of the interim period. And so what I wanted to propose to you is that I would continue on under the terms and conditions of the engagement letter I've drafted with 2 changes. 1, get rid of the minimum retainer payment. And 2, I would charge at $250 an hour, which is what you pay everyone else that has been a lawyer that works for the commission, including the ones unlike me who didn't have an upset cap like the insurance litigation firm. I still believe I can bring in the budget very close to what it is this year. We have been tracking our time and expenses for these 3 months, and I believe that when it's all totaled up, we will have been less than what the retainer is.
So you're cutting your salary is what you're telling us?
Not necessarily, but what I am doing is taking away what has existed for the last few years, which is an incentive to do the least you can do. Because that's what a retainer does.
Okay, go ahead, Jack. I can see that you're,
Well, and again, there's a couple things that we finally, and I've been here 2.5 years. I've never received my council's bill without line items, how much time, what we were working on, what was done, even if I was on a retainer, as you start to see in our bills now. So you can start to see, and it's kind of eye-opening with the things that are going on that we're, not that it's a bad thing that we're not aware of, some of them we don't need to be aware of. But it's at least more information for us to be aware of what's going on in the commission, and I think to me it's a little bit more helpful. Again, I think it's the nice thing about our contract with Mr. Cloud is that anytime we don't like it, we all agree that we just part company. Playing devil's advocate, I talked to Mr. Cloud today about this. Is it it's one of those things. If it works out and if we're on the number, we're below the number, or we're over the number, we have the ability based on our agreement to adjust. I like that. I like to have the ability to not be trapped in something that's maybe not good for both parties. So again, we can look at it, we can enter into the agreement, we can accept what he's offering, and we'll see how it turns out. We have the ability. I don't think any of us are up here, if he starts coming in at 16,000, they're gonna let that go for 6 months and go, hey, by the way, time out. I hope that we don't need that much counsel that it requires that many hours. I do like to know, and one of the things that has concerned me, I don't even know what we've spent defending ourselves, what additional cost to even evaluate, to sit there and say, are we really spending 12 grand or are we spending more money? And I think the answer is more money. So I don't think that 12 grand number is a real number anyways. We talked about some of the insurance counsel that handles it. I like when I'm dealing with my business and my insurance companies tend to do what's best for them. That doesn't necessarily always reflect on what's best for your business. That's why I like to stay engaged with my counsel, even if I'm being represented by my insurance company. Settlements aren't always something that it might be easier, but it's not necessarily always the right thing to do. So I would be willing to look at it and say, what does this work, how does it work out? I mean, I don't think any of us 6 months from now are content on paying more. I like the idea of less, but I like the idea of finding out what the heck we're actually getting, and it's gonna be, if you just go look at his bills, we know who he's talking to, we know what the conversation is, we know how long it is. That's as transparent as you can be. I don't know what more, if I was on the outside looking in going, I really want to understand what's going on, that's public record. It's there, you can look at it, it's in the agendas, it's pretty easy to get to. So I think it's for us, it's presenting more transparency to the ratepayer with the ability to find out what's going on. So I liked it. I like it if the result comes in less,
you'll like it more.
Right. More is less. More is less, yeah. So that's where I was at. And again, that's just my 2 cents for what it's worth.
Mr. Davenport?
I agree with Jack. It's really nice to know. It's nice to be able to see what's going on when you're setting up here and you're responsible to the community. See what we're being charged for. I didn't have a clue before, but now I do. I know what's going on. I would like to personally, Jackie addressed it just then, something that concerns me that I've heard several times sitting here as a commissioner is where are we on the legal fees? Where are our total legal fees been over the last 18 months? I'd like to know that, one. Number two, what litigation do we have going on now? I mean, you know, these are things I personally like to know, for me sitting up here as a commissioner.
Turn around and ask Mr. Cloud.
That's what I'd like to figure out, where our litigation is, you know, what's being litigated. What have our total legal fees been for the last 18 months?
You know, more.
I mean, total fees, I'm not talking about just our former attorney here, Preston. I'm talking about what have we outsourced?
Here's the question I'd have for you is that the litigation that we are in, how would you have been able to handle that litigation? Would you have had to outsource that, or would you have been able to handle that in-house?
We could have handled every bit of it in-house. Now, there may be times when it's better to go ahead and let the insurance company do it if it doesn't lead to higher premiums.
Right.
Then yes, but, you know, there's one or two cases that probably and most other local utility commissions would have been handled in-house. And, but those went outside because there was no capacity to handle litigation. And we have that, so. They were, at least one of them was signed up, and I don't think y'all saw it. But you have, and I'm trying to get to understand it a little better, some kind of $50,000 rule that if it's less than that, it doesn't come before you. But when you don't have a cap on something, then, well, you can see how it may or may not stay below the number, particularly in litigation. There's no way to predict what that number is. So I don't think that you necessarily have a problem now. What I'm proposing is a way for you to see everything transparently with and you know, we've done that on our first couple of months here. We've provided you with the backup detail, even though with a set fee, there was no requirement to. But I thought it was important for you to see what I was seeing. And it is going to be important for you to see that moving forward, because I represent you.
Right.
That's what the charter says. I represent the Utilities Commission. Yes, I need to work and coordinate with your CEO and, you know, make sure that the advice I'm giving is consistent with your prior policy, and also be able to help in the development of new policy that a CEO develops. But ultimately, I represent the Utilities Commission. And I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Thank you. Ms. Parker, you have any questions?
I do. Really, I don't want to get lost in the discussion. Mr. Mitchum, at our next meeting, could we please be provided with any and all legal fees that were paid by the Utilities Commission to an attorney other than our attorney of record? You know, any outside counsel that has been engaged?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know when that's happened and how much it's cost.
That can be done. I believe that was provided to you guys a few months back. I don't remember exactly.
I don't remember
Well, it
seeing
may have been
that.
provided to Mr. Cloud.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was discussed.
I haven't seen it.
Haven't seen it. Right.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Personal issue.
Then I would like to also really understand, like, for instance now, every invoice, Mr. Claus on a retainer, every invoice that he provides to you, you have been sharing with us, which I appreciate for our approval. But I don't recall ever getting an invoice to approve payable to Mr. Preston. I don't recall ever receiving a legal invoice to approve of any kind. So what's the difference? You know, why do we not get invoices to approve for any and all legal fees? I'm trying to figure this out.
Any and all legal fee was done under the retainer with Mr. Preston, for the most part. I think it's less than $20,000 outside of that the whole time. I'm not sure we provided that. I'll have to look it up to provide that. As far as that, it was a contract of so much per month, and that's what he was written. The check was written to him per month. That was already signed in the contract, and there was nothing else to present as far as I was concerned. It was $12,000 monthly, and that's what we paid him.
Well, that was our same deal with Mr. Cloud, right?
No.
Oh, he
Well,
was going to provide us the
That
details.
was an interim deal.
Well, I think certainly moving forward, I really appreciate that detail. I do think if we pay any legal fees out at all, that I would like that to come before this body so that we're aware of it. Whether if you do it via email versus talking to us, but it helps us know what's going on if that's shared with us. But as far as addressing us continuing with Mr. Cloud, I just have to thank him so completely and sincerely for everything that he's done, because I feel like I have learned more in the period that he has been here than I did throughout the other remaining months of me being on the commission. And I am a true believer in that you get what you pay for. And seldom is the cheapest the best. Every once in a while, but I feel like it often is not. And I agree that very often a retainer really doesn't encourage you to do any more. It doesn't encourage you to be more efficient. It doesn't encourage you to go in and do some of the tough stuff that you need to do when it's really necessary. And I would imagine we could end up in the whole scheme of things paying about the same as what we've paid in the past for our attorney services. But if we pay more, there will be a reason for it that we will clearly understand, because we're going to be getting that detail and we're having that constant communication with Mr. Cloud. And, you know, I think that we have so many important things that we have to deal with. And what I would like, I'm definitely in favor of approving a new contract with him. I would like to see that now is not the time for us to be hunting a new attorney. This one is pretty doggone good, and he's got extensive experience in this, as well as a firm of how many attorneys?
300.
Yeah. 300 attorneys that are available to us if need be, if we run into something that he doesn't have the capacity to handle or that's not truly his area of expertise. So with what we have on our plate and the fact that we will be looking for a new general manager, I mean, once that's behind us and we have that new person on board, then we can decide the best way to move forward permanently. But that's my 2 cents. I have liked what Mr. Cloud has done very much, and I think that we need him, and I really appreciate what he's brought to the table.
Thank you. Lee?
I would agree,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Then I need a motion.
I think what Mr. Cloud has proposed, though, the $250 an hour, if we could, I mean, I'm in agreement to it, but just make sure we see, you know, in writing and.
Well, he has, I'm sure he has a contract
Okay.
over there.
It would basically be the same terms and conditions of our existing engagement letter, just the
Rate changes.
with the rate change and the removal of the minimum of $12,000 a month.
Okay.
Okay, I need a motion to accept that from somebody.
I'll make a motion to accept the offer Mr. Cloud has made with the exceptions he's proposed.
Okay, I need a second.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
The only thing, as like I said, is as I would, and again, we're gonna be cautious of, we're going through a lot here with the new CEO and the CIP. There's a lot going on. So I'm one of those that says, you know, don't overreact if we get a big, you know, a bill one month that's $13,500 and don't, because I will never call you and go, hey, by the way, we appreciate the $8,000 bill. That you give it time to play out. I think a year is a real time. And again, the nice thing is, we have a 30-day window if we decide that we don't like each other, that we can part company anyways. I would find that hard to believe in the service that I've had. And I've dealt with a ton of lawyers, and I'm telling you, if I didn't believe it, I wouldn't say it. I have full confidence. And again, to your point, what most people don't understand is you do represent us when we are trying to make decisions, to actually understand the decision we're making, the legality of it, the consequences to the commission, to the to the utilities. There's a lot of things that I struggled with. I just give me the opinion and let me make a decision. Don't give me an opinion that's directional, that you're trying to guide me to a certain way. Lay it out for me, and that's for me. That's how I've always dealt with them, and it's the good ones I re-sign with consistently, and the ones I'm not comfortable with, I obviously don't. I'll reiterate what Ms. Parker said, is that I do feel a lot of confidence in what you give me. So I appreciate it, and moving forward, I hope that the ratepayers understand how important that is to us as a body, to have that type of counsel available to us. So I appreciate it. I just want to say that.
Mr. Cloud, are you looking for an open end, or would you accept a 1 year and we'll do it again at the end of a year?
Sure, but I mean, if you got tired of me in 30 days, the agreement allows you to kick me out, so.
Okay, so you want to do it?
It doesn't matter, because once you put that in there, we could sign a contract to infinity, and then we're
Okay.
done. So
All right.
the 30-day out's what we want.
Okay,
30 days, we don't like each other, we're done. We move on. It's the best
All right.
contract in the world.
any other questions or comments?
I got a comment.
Go ahead.
Assuming that we're going to vote and approve this,
Yes.
can we no longer show him as interim general counsel? Can we just show him as general counsel?
Yes.
Great,
That'll be fine.
okay.
Any other questions, comments? Debbie, please.
Chairman Beanball,
Yes.
Commissioner Brett Parker,
Yes,
Commissioner Davenport,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith,
Yes.
Commissioner Holcomb.
Yes.
Okay. Where's my agenda that isn't?
we need to approve the invoice to him.
Oh, okay.
I move for approval of Mr. Cloud's most recent invoice.
Second.
Any discussion on it? Debbie, please.
Chairman Beanball,
Yes.
Commissioner Brett Parker,
Yes,
Commissioner Davenport,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith,
Yes.
Commissioner Holcomb.
Yes.
All right. We need to revise the schedule because of the conflicts that have been brought to our attention, and we do have a conflict at Christmas time. There is a proposed schedule for the fourth Monday of the month. It goes through except for December. Is that a correct reading without it being in front of me, Debbie?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody have any questions or problems with that? What do you want to do about Christmas time, gang?
Have a party. It's Christmas.
All right.
How about
The 24th is, of course, Christmas
Christmas
Eve.
Eve, so that's
and
out.
Right.
The week before,
The week before is
17.
17th?
17th.
Yeah.
Mr. Cloud, how is your schedule on the 17th?
Is that a Monday?
Yes, it is.
It's the third Monday
Yeah.
of the month.
That's,
That's an
okay.
issue
I'll
for
be in
you,
Polk
right?
City.
Can we do the next, can we do Tuesday then, which will
Oh,
be?
yeah, yeah.
The
I can.
18th, yeah.
Bring my calendar up here.
Yeah, Tuesday's the 18th.
That would be the 18th.
You can do the 18th?
Yes, sir.
How about everybody else on their
Good.
schedule?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Been moved and seconded that the new meeting dates will be May 29, June 25, July 23, August 27, September 24, October 22, November 26, and December 17.
18th.
18, thank you. Everybody on board with that? Debbie, please.
What?
She was nodding.
No, I was waiting for you to say color roll.
Debbie, please.
Chairman Beanbaugh?
Yes.
Commissioner Fritz Parker?
Yes.
Commissioner Davenport?
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith?
Yes.
Commissioner Holden?
Yes.
Hey, did we get, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead,
did
buddy.
we get have we received a copy of the changes yet, or she'll send them out to us?
It's on item 6A, which is page 1 of, way in the back.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's way in the back there, buddy.
I got it.
You got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Old business.
All right, old business, considering the budget. Anybody want to go before I turn it over to Mrs. Fitz Parker?
I had
Go
one.
go ahead, Jack.
One question on at the last page, 61, we have a mandatory 8% required that we refer to in the revenues, 3,128,000.
What page are you on, Jack?
61,
Thank you. All right,
and it's just the wording. And we know that the 8% is mandatory, it's been written into
That resolution.
resolution, right. So I'm just curious when it says projected additional required 2019. The required, is that just, I mean, because it's not, it's our,
It is part of the money at the end of the year from
Net income.
operations, net income
That's your
that goes back
projected net
into.
income.
yeah, no, I understand that, but we choose to move, we're using that money to offset our CIP, obviously, the extra funds.
It goes into the
Right,
CIP.
that's going to be the
unallocated.
lion's share of, because obviously the 8% isn't going to get us there.
Correct.
But
So,
Jack, just to help you with that.
right,
The 8% happens monthly, correct?
yes.
Okay, but that same resolution, whatever it was, when this was all set up, also said that at the end of the year, whatever net income we have gets transferred into that R&R fund. So this is the projected net income
Okay, so, all right, so it actually is a requirement of that
resolution.
resolution. So, all right, because I always understood the 8%, I didn't understand that last part, because required is a word that says we're mandated basically to do it. All right. That was, yeah, I'm interested, I'll probably have something to say after you start talking.
Mr. Davenport, do you have something you want to put in?
No, sir, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Lee?
I'm good.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Fitz Parker.
I appreciate the changes. I really do. This is a lot more understandable to me now than it was when we met before, so thank you very much for that. I would like to address also, I think that this is, I had asked for this at our last meeting. This new piece of paper that we got that I believe is showing the additional revenue that we would have collected if we would have done the fee increases. When we had the rate study done in 2012, there had been recommendations for increases in electric, water, and wastewater that we did not do. So I asked staff to tell us how much money did we forego by not doing that. So I'm assuming, Debbie, can you put this on the screen so that the public can see it? There it is. Okay. So what we're seeing there is what was projected, or we're seeing actual revenue, correct? This is actual revenue for 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, which would have shown that over that 5-year period, we would have collected nearly $16 million, $15,936,000, if we would have done these fee increases. What I'd also like us to include in this conversation is 2018, because 2018 is almost over. And if we assumed that revenue for 2018 was the same as 2017, which I think is a conservative estimate, because it seems like we've had more growth, I think we have more customers. But if we just said it was the same as what you said the additional revenue would be for 2017, we would be looking at an additional $19,203,000. So that's how much more money we would have as of 9/30/18 as we're going into this budget that we're approving tonight for 9/30/19. So we would not have to borrow any money this year, 9/30/19. We would not have a cash shortfall, and we would not have to borrow money. So I think that's important. I want to make sure this is made part of the record, because as I said at our budget workshop, every decision we make has a consequence. And so because we, as a commission, opted not to do the fee increases that were recommended as a result of a rate study that was performed that we paid roughly $110,000 for in 2012, I wanted to make sure that this was on the record, and I thank you very much for providing it. Did you do this, Lori? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And do you agree with me that that would be close, that if I take
With the assumption that we would do the same as 2017.
So if I make the assumption that 2018 revenue would be the same as what was 2017 revenue, we would be at $19,203,000 in additional revenue going into budget year 9/30/19. Thank you.
Can I comment on that? That was and here's, no one ever likes to raise rates because of the consequence of raising rates. But again, when you're looking at $100+ million, $150 million CIP, the consequence of inaction, and again, like I said, it's always never a favorable to do it, but it's a little different that we are obligated to build these structures, and we're obligated to provide the very best service and equipment, and it refers in the budget of a very aging infrastructure. That when you kick that can down the road, all you do is it's the same, we still have the same liability. Now we gotta go borrow the money and pay more money. So we've actually put ourselves in a hole because we chose, and that's where, because again, it's coming. You look at the cash flow, you look at what we're set for the next 10 years, that's a big plan. And again, and I know it's off of growth, but let's just say it's 12 years, 10 years, whatever it is, it's still a big number. We can't afford to ignore it. And because it's not favorable to raise the rates, the ratepayer doesn't lose the liability. The only thing we've done is created bigger liability now because we're gonna have to go borrow that money and we're gonna have to make it up faster. So that's for me. I just want the forward thinking. Sometimes the decisions aren't always the easiest because you do have to raise the rate or whatever it might be. Every other utilities does it. FP&L does it. If we want the best equipment, if you want the best service that you can get at, the one thing that people talk to me, we want faster service, we want better service. Well, those things cost money. And in order to provide that, you gotta have better equipment. You gotta, this stuff gets old. We've talked about, the lessons of beachside and the corrosion and the way it just eats our infrastructure essentially off. That it's we've got to prepare for it, even though it's not the tough decision. What I don't like is now if you took incremental increases, 4%, if you go look at your bill and it's 4%, that's manageable. No one likes any increase, I'll give you that. But a 4% is tolerable. I have a sneaky suspicion that when they come back and they look at what our obligations are moving forward, it's not going to be as a small a step. I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be a bigger reach as far as recouping that money. So I like those gradual gains, but again, I think if you're looking at $150 million and we're looking at our cash situation of what it is, we're going to have to raise money pretty quick to pay for this stuff. If I'm not mistaken, I think I asked Mr. Belinsky one time. We're looking at, for every dollar we spend, we're looking at probably a 60-40, 40% we put our dollar in, 60% borrowing. That number's got to be higher now. It just is. So, those are things that bother me. That $16 million would have been nice to offset that percentage of, for every dollar we spend in infrastructure or improvements, we only had to borrow 60%, you take that 19 million that would be on the books, now all of a sudden that number's a little bit less. And you've got to regularly take care of your equipment, or it gets dated and aged and it becomes more expensive to obviously repair, replace, and put it in. Those are my concerns. And again, like I said, it's, 16 million we can't get back. I would just encourage this board, if we're gonna spend money for rate studies and they come back and they recommend it, we can't afford to just keep kicking the can down the road, and hopefully the next commission or the next group of people will take care of it, because the bill's coming, or the check's coming for this CIP plan that we have. And again, it's 150 million bucks. That's a big number. And just say we're off. Say we don't have to bring some of that stuff in by 3 years. Let's just say it's 100 million. It's still a big number. And I don't want to get in. I've listened to Mr. Hoover, and if you listen to what he says, what happens then is his water treatment facilities and his plants, all of a sudden we start taking little pieces off of it. And then what we said we needed that would work, we all of a sudden start pulling it back, and we don't end up with what we actually need. And that's, Mr. Hoover, I've listened to you. I've toured the plant with you. I appreciate your passion, because again, you want good stuff, you got to buy it, and that's what we are. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, because we're going to be borrowing a lot of money over the next, 10 years? 5 years? Probably 5 years. 5 years is going to be pretty rapid. So I just want to make us aware moving forward what we're looking at. That was it. Didn't mean to rush.
Because we are, I'm sorry. Mr. Davenport, you had something to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, but bringing up the cost of the rate study in 2012, 13, 2012, $110,000. I'm just thinking here, could we update that study if you got to do it? Can we go back? Can we redraw those plans?
That was the question.
Doesn't work like that.
That was the question I asked last week, and Derek almost shoved it down my throat when he said, no, emphatically no, Mr. Biedenbach.
Oh my, that's a lot.
But let's get started.
But anyhow, Derek, would you tell us that you have been able, in the week since last, been able to chop 3 or 4 months off the time? Did you get the chance to talk to the people that you needed to talk to?
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay. Derek Wainscott, Director of Engineering. I did a little bit of research and spoke with our purchasing manager to confirm the process for a rate study. I can assign the rate study to a consultant, so that we do not have to waste 3 to 4 months in an RSQ process selecting the consultant. I have been able to confirm that information. The status of a new rate study, I put together essentially a 2.5-page bulleted scope to get routed amongst the directors in Mr. Mitchum's office to pass that along to a consultant. We'll have our new consultants, hopefully their agreements will be on the agenda in June at the earliest, but more than likely July. It's a commission meeting, and then hopefully we would be able to negotiate a contract and have a contract for your consideration at the August or September commission meeting to complete the rate study.
Can I?
Mr. Cloud, could you weigh in on this for us? Because I think that Mr. Cloud has some advice on this process that is worth us listening to.
Well, I'm curious if the other rate consulting contracts were bid out. I'm assuming they were.
The last rate study was, the consultant was selected through an RSQ process.
Right? So there was a public procurement process, some kind of a selection
Yes.
process. That is a hugely important activity for this commission. And I'm going to underline that, for this commission, because you set rates. Don't you want to have a say in who is going to provide that? advice to you.
I do.
Sure.
I do, and I would even go as far as saying that, you know, considering your depth of experience and knowledge in this, Mr. Cloud, I'd like us to go through an RSQ process and have you be on that committee. I would like to take some time off of it, but, you know, we got to do this right. It is usually important. I really appreciate you researching that, Derek, I do. But I feel like we as a body need to be involved in selecting who's going to do that rate study. And, you know, so if that means, I mean, is it possible for us to get an RSQ together quickly? So that, you know, so that at least maybe we could be through with the process once October hits? You know, that we wouldn't actually be paying for it and going into it. It wouldn't be completed until November or December, but at least we could be proactive and have made progress on it.
We've already had some discussions on that, and we are going to move it as quickly as possible.
Okay.
But just, Derek may say, but it won't happen quickly, but yes, we can start it sooner
I know.
and make it happen.
Nothing happens quickly.
Right.
And again, if we refer to page 61, if I'm reading this right, we're going to borrow 10 million to essentially have 5 million on hand. Is that correct? If you go to the bottom, we're borrowing 10 million.
That's the
And
anticipation.
our R&R fund, right, our R&R fund balance 9/30/19 is going to be 5.2 million. So again, I can't stress how important it is to, we're borrowing money. And again, I understand that all these projects aren't going to get done, and I appreciate the projected 17 million that we're going to spend in 19 versus what's budgeted. And it's not as easy as go build it and have it done by a certain day. I'm one guy that absolutely understands that. But I can't emphasize enough that this is how important it is. I mean, we're going to borrow 10 million bucks this year in the year 19, fiscal year 19, to essentially have 5 million on hand when we finish that calendar year. Already in an active plan, committed or a range of 100+ million. So just, when I say we need to move, we need to move. And I understand we need to be thorough, but we need to move.
You're right, and we do need to do the rate study very thorough.
Right.
It has to be going
Yeah,
forward, because it
absolutely.
is going to contribute to this. I'm
Right.
expecting, as you said, there will be, what
Significant.
recommendations come out of that. It'll be a combination of that and debt, of course. But I said, we discussed with Derek a little bit as to speed this up. We will have a lot of this process in place to where we hopefully can do that as of October to pay it, boom, here, and we'll get there.
Okay.
We're going to do it as quickly as possible.
And
All right, then, from the discussion, we're gonna go on for an RFQ. Is that the correct, where we are? Everybody in agreement on that?
Yes, sir. I am.
Okay,
I agree with Bernadette.
okay.
Attorney.
Mr. Cloud?
Yes.
That's what he's saying. He's saying,
Yeah.
okay, do we need to do any kind of, to make a motion to make that happen? To give,
I don't think you need a formal motion. I think your staff and lawyer just heard what you said, so.
put together an RFQ and bring it back to us so that we can
Right.
get this going down the highway. Derek, thank you for your week of trying to help us out. Sorry, didn't happen. Okay, I'd like to ask a question on how much of this money that we don't have is attributed to expansion out there on the other side, on the west side of 95, and how much of it is just fixing stuff that's getting old?
Derek may
Go
have
ahead,
more
Derek.
insight.
right now in the budget, $3.5 million is dedicated to the fleet maintenance and other services, I think field operations and generation operations in the budget.
So then the other 12 or 13 million is for expansion,
No?
No.
Upgrades, system improvements?
okay?
I mean, pretty much if I understand it, because brought this up at our budget workshop.
Go ahead.
The 22 million and 22 million. It was the 22 million in prior year projects and the 22 million labeled as like 2019 projects. Those all don't have anything to do with expansion except moving of fleet maintenance.
None of these projects are really expansion at
Okay.
all. This is all,
It's not growth.
This
It's an important issue because, of course, it's a hot topic
Yes, of
lately in
course.
our community. You know, we've got all the anti-growth sentiment, and so I think that it's important for us to make clear and
If you-
transparent.
if you look at the sheet that's in front of you, you've got reconstruct lift stations, you've got repair lift stations, the facility upgrades, you've got road project relocation for interagency. We've got a project that this board voted on in April. The DOT is basically knocking on the door going, you got a water main in our way, move it. That's essentially what we voted on, is the funds for that. So I can't tell the DOT, no, we're not moving the water main. We're in there right away. I've tried, it didn't go well.
We didn't lose any hair over
Keep you
it or
staying
anything.
off about 5 more years.
I haven't lost hair yet, if that's what you're talking about.
Like I said, if you guys have ever gone on a tour, and I'm sure when you first start, I don't think anybody could, I wouldn't, when I walked away from my tour of the facilities, the one thing I didn't get was we had a lot of new stuff. You could definitely see it was very dated, and I mean 50 years old, 40 years old. It wasn't, it was not, it didn't look, and I mean, we had VCRs hanging out of the wall at the water plant. I said, I didn't even know they made VCRs. That big board, Dave, that you got up there with it's like a big dashboard. It's a big piece of plywood that there's TVs hanging out of.
Did you go behind it?
I could. I was scared to. But I mean, what I'm saying, if you just walk around, these things need to be updated. And again, you want to become more efficient. You want to become a better service provider. You can't do it with old, outdated equipment. I mean, it's just, it's, you know, what's our fleet of cars? What did we say when we started? We were 11 years old. I don't think it's probably less than that now.
Yes, it's less.
But it's probably not that 7-year number that you wanted.
We will be approaching it.
Okay.
We're getting there.
All right, so we
I
started in a big hole, though, that's what I'm saying.
If I could clarify something as far as the word expansion, a lot of this is, as Derek said, it's rebuilding, redoing, it is upgrading. So it's not the word expansion, but it is newer technology, obviously, and larger, some of it, but it's not dedicated to growth per se, but it's all, you know, all that kind of, so it is an expansion in a way, but it's not.
Well, you said the switches, that you were doing and the replacement of the switches is basically for every 4 we had, we could go down to 1. That, to me, when we expand and we spend that money, that's 3 less things that can break versus 1. The switches we talked about 5 meetings ago or 6 meetings ago, where you said, right, you said basically.
Glad you remember it, Jack.
But you made the point of when we replaced the switches, that they were we would need fewer of them because.
He's talking electric now,
Yeah,
not water.
yeah. But I'm just
Okay.
saying, you know what I'm saying, as technology comes, you become, it's just better, so.
We'd like to think we're getting better.
No, I do, but I mean, again, you're only as good as the equipment that you work on. And that's what I'm trying to stress, is that you can be the best employee in the world, and you got an old piece of equipment, you're only going to be as good as that equipment is. So we just need to reinvest in our business that provides service to our customers. So that's my point.
All right, so,
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead, Bud.
yes, sir. I'd like to address what Bernadette said regarding, that was an excellent question, Mr. Mitchell, that I personally don't want to get misconstrued in the community that we're having to do these improvements because of growth. I don't want that to, that's not the truth. We know that. So I don't want it written that way, you know, where it's like we're having to do this because we know what's going, we've listened to Derek and we've listened to everybody about the water and the valves, and you sit up here and go, oh my gosh. And then when your electric goes off, they want it on real quick, you know? So I just hope we can get that out there. We have our public, our the Utilities Commission that addresses issues like that. We start going down this path, it doesn't need to be that because all the growth. The developer's been having to pay a lot of this. So we just don't want this, I don't want to have to be addressing, and none of us do. So I just want to,
No, I think we're clear, and as Derek's stating, this is mostly upgrading,
Okay.
newer.
we just want that understood with
technology.
everybody.
Some of it is bigger because, I mean, you're replacing it, you're going
Right.
to, obviously. So yes, that is definitely clear.
Thank
And
you.
let me ask you a question, one other thing, because when power goes out, we become the most popular people in town. So I use our system. Facebook, I responded Sunday, there was an outage in the morning. Are you the one that gets back with me, but I'm just curious? Okay, so, and the option 2 on the phone line goes down. It just, if we have an outage and a lot of people call, it just kind of crashes. Am I understanding that right? Because now it's happened twice. The last outage 3 or 4 months ago down Beachside, the same thing. I'm like, oh no, you can call this number. They're like, yeah, no, you can't. So then I call it and it doesn't work. What do we, I mean, and again, I refer people, I just screenshot our Facebook, which you guys do a great job. And I got a response within minutes. I didn't get a response within a half an hour, an hour. I got a response within 3 minutes, which I was extremely happy with. And I just screenshotted the responses to people, and I always tell them to go there because it's easier to push the information than answer a million phone calls. But that seems a little odd. Is that a common occurrence now? It's happened twice that we get an outage, we get a high volume of calls. That second line is, I think it's 71 is the last exchange, goes down. Is that normal?
There was an issue with it, this outage Sunday morning you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I believe Mr. Varley stated we actually are going to a different, May 31st. That will be a failover to a different off-site that I guess is cloud hosted. Am I understanding that correct? And yes, that will give
Let's get
us,
somebody up here that
the
can
calls
talk-
will be
that can
picking it
address
up.
this.
They'll be picking up. There was an issue with the situation Friday that I think everyone's getting busy signal.
Brandy Keene, Information Technology Director, and we are moving to a hosted environment. We have an old IVR system with MillSoft. We're working with MillSoft. We're going to have 12 lines, which we currently have, but then we're going to have a failover with a hosted pool where they'll pick up the calls if it fails, if we get too many calls at that point. So right now, I'm waiting for Department of Management Services to allow our number to be moved over to MillSoft. Once it is, we're hoping our go-live date will be May 31st, which is this week, and then we won't have the same issues anymore.
Can I ask another question since Brittany's up there?
Yeah.
I love our iPads. Thank you. But I would like to talk about, since we're talking about the budget right now, is seeing if we could change the setup a little bit in here, Mr. Mitchum, like this right here, that it's not blocking our ability to see everyone. You know, this can be put in, there's other options for this.
You're talking Brandy's language right now, I think. She
Yeah.
has something.
We're
she
on the
wants
exact same page.
This whole thing redone.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And like, what year is this technology?
We have all years, really, pick, but,
Flintstone package.
right, our sound system's at least 10 to 15 years old. The projection, you can see that's probably 10 to 15 years old. We have piece parted this together for you that you have now with our existing system, but in order for us to do something like you're talking about, it would take a reconfiguring of the TIAs and to get, new technology in. So it would take some money and some time that we'd have to consider.
Well, I'd like to see us consider that. It's my understanding that, like, these monitors and stuff, it's not wasted money. You guys got plenty of things you could use these for us to get, just as an example, and I had talked with you about this, is that, I'm accustomed to, from a technology standpoint, the firm that I was with for years, we replaced every year a third of our technology. Because you just had to. You just had to. I mean, it's a lot of money to spend. You don't want to do it, but you have to. All the software programs that you get are more powerful, and you just need that you need that IT infrastructure to be able to do it. And, you know, the world is changing. I'm sure that we have people now, they're trying to come in, go online on the computer to watch this meeting. I would like it that, you know, I've looked at some of the film from it, and all people want to see here is like this much of my head. You know, we're here to represent the people, so it'd be nice if they could see us. So maybe at the next, you know, I would like that to be part of the budget. I don't think it's going to be anything so hugely expensive, but can we address that moving forward to maybe
We were
change
just discussing that today. We will be addressing it, but it is going to be more expensive than you think. But we'll bring that number back.
Okay. Well, based on that, are we willing to enter, I'll make a motion to approve the budget.
Okay, go ahead. You've made the motion. I need a second.
Discussion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? I have some. I would like in the budget for enough money for 2 of the commissioners to go to FMPA. Is that the right initials, Mr. Bishop?
FMPA, FMEA.
Florida Municipal Power.
Florida Municipal EA, right?
That's FMEA?
It's FMEA?
Yeah, Florida
Okay,
Municipal
I'd
Electric
like 2
Association.
commissioners to be able to go to FMEA, 1 to APPA, and 1 to, and Mr. Hoover, you're gonna have to help me, is it the American Water Works Association?
Yes, sir.
And 1 to the American Water Works Association, so we can find out what's going on in the outside world.
Brian told me he put that in there. I will have to check on the AWWA. That's
Okay.
a new one for me.
All right,
I mean, we do that, but we no one had been going to that
I
particular.
understand that, but I want some commissioner to go to all 4 of those. I want 4 to go. Thank you. Anybody else? Debbie, would you please?
Okay, it's resolution number 2018-03. Chairman Beamer,
Yes.
Commissioner Rich Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Davenport,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffin,
Yes.
Commissioner Holcomb.
Yes.
Any other business? Mr. Davenport, do you have anything else you want to say tonight? No? Jack? Bernadette?
No.
Lee?
I'm good.
Mr. Mitchell?
Covered it all.
No, sir, thank you.
Mr. Cloud?
No, sir.
I need a motion to adjourn. You're too late. You're done.
Thank you.